Yes, we are connected.
Okay. So we welcome all our viewers for another session by our special guest, Mr. Pratik Desai. Mr. Pratik Desai is a businessman, having done his MS in the field of uh, Masters in Aeronautical Engineering, and is now a practicing a businessman based out of Mumbai. He's Because of his very scholarly nature, uh, he's very uh, he's keen to read a lot and further his knowledge on any subject of interest. He's taken special interest in the field of spirituality and has read extensively the works of important acharyas and the scriptures such as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And he likes to discuss and clarify so many misconceptions which people have out of ignorance, using the basis of the scriptures and the commentaries of the important acharyas. So today's topic selected has been, which is a very, very controversial topic. I'm sure the entire world will discuss this. That why did God create many religions and does not all of them lead to God? Now, in this question itself, one may question this question by saying that people say that man has created religion, actually. And here we are saying, why has God created many religions? And then does not all of them lead to God? So if God is created, then God's creation is perfect. So then obviously all should lead to God. So then does not all lead to God? Why is there so much difference of opinion? Why do people argue on this so much? So Pratik ji, if you can clarify this fundamental doubt.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rajiv ji, for continuing with the sessions and especially choosing this great controversial subject matter uh, about why God creating so many religions, because they are cause of suffering. Apparently, they cause suffering as per the conceptions of a lot of people. But it is not exactly like that. The reason is definitely something else. It is we cannot blame the source of our own karma. Because although God is the source of everyone, but we have choices and we have taken some responsibility. So we have to be responsible enough to acknowledge that we are responsible for our own actions. So how we are responsible for our own actions, why so many religions are there in this world, and these are all causes of our own lack of um, understanding about spirituality, lack of the right attitude. Because of these factors, there are so many religions created. And obviously, there are religions which are bona fide also. Now, when we say bona fide, it means that these religions are all sanctioned by the Supreme Lord and they are representing the Supreme Lord. So we cannot say that everything, all the religions in this world, they are manufactured by our own actions, by our own intelligence or our own whims. So there are certain bona fide religions which are sanctioned by the Supreme Lord, and we follow those religions and we also attain success in those paths. But majorly because there are very few religions as such, these bona fide religions. But because people have created unlimited religions, so many varieties of religion now. So we have to also draw the line somewhere, and we have to distinguish between which one is bona fide, which one is not bona fide. So if you remember, we had a talk show where we had discussed in detail about, out of so many religions, which one is the bona fide one, how to choose, how to identify a bona fide religion. So we'll not go into the detail of that, but we'll try to find out the cause of why there are so many religions in this world, right? So first of all, we need to understand the meaning of religion. Religion is a combination, it's a Latin word, it's a combination of two words, re and ligio. So re means again, and ligio means connect. So the process of the meaning of religion basically, it means that we want to reconnect. We want to again establish our connection with something. So that reconnection can only be with a sentient being. It cannot be with something which is void, something which is material in nature, because material things and void things, they do not have any feelings. They do not have any, we will not be able to reciprocate with them. So it makes sense to say that when we talk about religion, when we talk about reconnection with someone, we are not talking reconnecting with something which is void in nature or something which is material in nature. We are talking about reconnection in context of connecting back with a sentient being. In our earlier talk shows also, I think we have also established the fact that how the absolute truth or the supreme reality is sentient, is a person. So that's how religion has to be with reference to a sentient being only. Even if you consider the impersonal nature of the absolute truth, if we say that we would like to connect with the absolute truth in an impersonal way, but then in order to connect with the absolute truth, there is a process, there is a path. And if we follow the path, then we connect to the absolute truth. So it means that to some degree, there is some kind of reciprocation happening. Some kind of sentiment is also there. Because if it is without any sentiments, if it is without any personality, without any purpose, any desire, then you cannot really say that we would like to reconnect with someone, right? There has to be a purpose. Why are we here and why should we connect back with someone? So when we talk about reconnection, we are also talking about that we had this connection earlier, but probably we have been disconnected at some point of time. And then now we are again looking forward to reconnect with that source, right? So we had some connection earlier. Only with a sentient being this is possible, and only with someone who has a personality it is possible. Otherwise, philosophically speaking, whatever reasoning we have, it won't be consistent. It won't make sense because at some point of time, we are sentient beings, whereas earlier, we never had a connection with anyone. So out of nowhere, we have been created as a sentient being, and now we are trying to connect back with that particular absolute truth. Does not make sense. So reconnection, religion, specifically, you can say that it is a process of reconnecting with our roots, with our source, and that is the absolute truth, which is sentient being, like that. So now the question is that why so many religions? Okay, we understand that we need to reconnect with our father, common father, or the source, the ultimate truth, the ultimate reality. But then why so many different types of religions? Why so many different paths? The problem is that a lot of people, they feel this is creating violence and suffering. In the name of religion, everyone is trying to establish their religion is the best one. Or if they are not able to establish their religion as the best, then they try to commit violence towards other religions, and they impose their views on others, they force others, they convert others. So this is something which should not happen, ideally, because this is, as long as there is violence committed in the name of religion, as long as the religion is not compassionate, it is not all accommodating, all encompassing, till that degree, the religion is not bona fide. It is further away from being called a bona fide religion. So you will see that if some religion is a bona fide religion, then it should be very open-minded. It should be all accommodating. It should be very compassionate. It should be liberal in a sense, right? Then only we can say that it's a bona fide religion. It should not involve any kind of violence. It should have infinite mercy for the living entities. So these are all characteristics of a bona fide religion, which we have discussed in the previous talk show. And This is how we can identify which one is a bona fide religion, which one is not a bona fide religion. Now, why so many bona fide religions also? Why not just one common path, a common goal for everyone? So this question is definitely valid. It's a logical question. Anyone would ask this question, that why not? Because it is very confusing also. Forget about being other regions, they are probably inclined towards, they would like to convert others, they would like to impose their views on others, they would like to force. But just on the basis of logic also, we can question that why is there a need for so many religions? Even if you have so many bona fide religions, but then why there is a need for this so many bona fide religions? It's a lot of confusion because there are different paths, different methods of worshipping and practicing the Supreme Being. So the simple answer is people are actually influenced and they are in different consciousness. So that's why they cannot accept a common path, a common goal, the same path for each and every. We cannot impose a common path on everyone. See, there may be a best path, there may be a lower path, there may be inferior path, there may be progressive paths. These are all bona fide paths. These are all, maybe these are all steps towards the supreme absolute truth. But not everyone is able to accept it at all points of time. So someone wants to earn money, someone wants to do a lot of karma, someone wants to develop jnana. So we cannot impose people to practice bhakti because they are at different consciousness and they are also influenced by their own karma or their surroundings and their environments. And not everyone is in the mood of acceptance at a particular point of time. So different people will want to approach the Lord in a different way because of their own inclination or because of their own influence, of the influence because they are in association with a lot of people in their surrounding, with their parents, with their friends, with their business associates. So there are multiple factors that will influence and affect their mind, affect their thinking also. So because one cannot accept a common path, that's why we have different paths. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that ye atamam pravadante tam sadaya vajamiyam manavartam anuvartante manushya partha sarvasa. He says that everyone ultimately comes to me or surrenders to me only, but they do so in different ways. They do so in indirect ways. Ultimately, they all surrender to me. Now, what is the meaning of that? If all paths lead to the same God, then what is the meaning of that? Why? I mean, one can say that, I just have to follow a particular path and that path will automatically lead me to the same God. So this can be a question. So in spite of, see, like we know, there are certain things in the material world which are the best in their own areas, in their own fields. So in terms of quality, in terms of quantity, there are certain things which are best, which may not be like, so for example, if I have a Maruti Dzire, but I know that Aston Martin, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, these are all very opulent and high quality and vehicles. So there is no denying that, because the more you go for quality, the more you have to pay the price for it. Not everyone can pay the price for it. So that's why people, although they may not have the best thing, does not mean that they are negating the fact that there is something which is best beyond their capacity or beyond their abilities. If they will earn more, then they may also reach that kind of level. If they work hard, they put efforts for it, then they will also come to that platform and they will also probably acquire that best thing in that particular area. Yeah.
But see, Prabhuji, what happens is that in material world, we are able to come to a consensus that when you took the example of a car, that, okay, I have a certain car, but I know there are better cars. And I aspire that one day when I have so much more material opulence, I will purchase that car. In spirituality, the problem is everybody is fighting and saying, no, my car is the best. And you have to accept my car. Nobody will agree that, okay, there is a better car and one day I will go into that. That the problem here is very different, because fundamentally, they all say that if this religion is created by God, it is perfect. So if it is perfect, then how can my car be any lesser than your car? That is the dilemma here.
Okay, good question. So see, materially, as you said, that okay, one may agree that there is something best. We may have a good car, but there is something which is best. And we acknowledge and we know that with time, if we have money, if I put efforts, then I will also attain that best car. But spiritually, when it comes, then everyone believes that, okay, this is the best car. Whatever I have is the best. But see, subjectively, it may be true. Your subjectivity will not create any difference in the eyes of God. When the Supreme Lord has given a process and a path, then he has also given a lot of details in a particular path, and he has given a lot of emphasis on a particular path, and he has also clearly stated that this path is the best path, or this path is a direct path, and then there are many other indirect paths. So that progressive levels of different paths is also established by the Supreme Lord. So subjectively, one may disagree, that's their own choice. But your subjective thinking is not going to affect others' thinking, or it's not going to affect the way in which the world is going to progress, because ultimately we are not the controllers and we are not the decision makers, and we don't have authority. So we don't have authority over nature's law, and we don't have the authority to control others. That's why when it is decided by the Supreme Lord, then it has to be accepted as it is. It cannot be twisted, deviated, or it cannot be minimized, right? So we need to identify which is that ultimate path, because the ultimate path will include all the other, like for example, 10,000 rupees also includes 1 rupee, 10 rupees, 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees, right? So the ultimate path will include the benefits of all other lower paths, all other inferior paths also, but it will also give something which is not given by the other inferior paths or indirect paths. Now, what is the meaning of indirect and direct path? Direct path is the one which is directly leading towards the Supreme Lord in the minimum amount of time. In the like for example, you can attain a PhD degree in a span of the general term of a PhD degree is 4 years. But we know that although on paper it is 4 years, but generally it may take around 5 years, 6 years also for a student to achieve PhD, depending on the research area, depending on the presentation, the defense and all that. So it may take 4 to 8 years also in order to get a PhD thesis. But if you are very fortunate enough to get PhD in 4 years, if your research and everything is perfect and everything is falling on time, everything is right on time, then you may be able to achieve your degree in 4 years also. And there may be cases where people may have achieved their degrees in 3 years also, if they are very intelligent, very smart, and they know what is to be done. So you can achieve your degree in 4 years, or you can achieve your degree in 8 years or 10 years, depending on how much time you are spending, how much efforts you are putting, in what direction. See, now this is also a major problem. When you are doing research, sometimes the research may lead you in a different direction altogether. It may lead you in an opposite direction also sometimes. So in order to come back to that direction that you're looking forward to go ahead, you have to be very smart also. Just putting hard efforts is not sufficient. You have to be intelligent also. So intelligence and hard work both are required in order to understand which is the best path, how much quickly I can actually reach the goal. Even for a businessman, the maximum profit he can generate is not just in terms of money, but also in terms of time. If a person can generate millions of dollars in few years rather than 40, 50 years, then obviously he's considered to be the best businessman, right? So time factor is very important. We cannot substitute time. Time, once it is gone, you cannot buy time. You cannot purchase time. Money, if it is gone, maybe it can be acquired later. If you have good health, you can acquire later also. But time, so the biggest value is value for time. So the Supreme Lord has already given that there are many paths which are available to us depending on our consciousness, depending on the way we would like to connect with the Supreme Lord. He has mentioned those paths. See, he cannot be a dictator. He cannot say that there is only one path. If you cannot follow this path, then there is no other way for you. You will go to hell. That becomes fanaticism. And that will also restrict or limit the supreme compassion of the Supreme Lord. So there, if he has infinite compassion, then he must have alternative ways also to connect with people. So the idea is that, see, the Lord wants to give a lot of alternatives to people so that they can, from their position, from their level of consciousness, they start appreciating that we would like to connect with Supreme Lord. Although they may not be able to connect with the best path, with the direct path, but at least they have made a connection. So gradually they will move forward, right? But if you narrow down the options, if you just limit it to one path, then what will happen? Maximum people will not be able to follow that path. And the consequence of that is people will be repelled from the Lord. They will not be attracted towards the Lord. Because the spirit of hate that is created, when you say that there is only one path, if you follow this is the only way and there is no other way, it creates a feeling of hatred amongst people. It also shows the envy and the ego of the Supreme Lord. It reflects that. It reflects negative characteristics of the Supreme Lord. So that is not possible. If the Supreme Lord is negative in his dealings, then what is the use of connecting with him? It does not make any sense. What is the purpose of creating this universe? What is the purpose of calling us back to him? That, it does not serve any purpose. But if you consider that the Supreme Lord is infinitely merciful and he has given alternative paths, he has given different paths for different people so that they can connect, then it makes sense that, okay, that the Supreme Lord is thinking for us. He still, in spite of our rejection of him, he still wants to give us some channel by which we can connect to him. So that indicates the greatness of the Lord. And indeed, the Lord is great. That's one of the definitions of being God also. A God is supposed to be great. He cannot be like a lusty person or an envious person, right? God is supposed to be great. So in order to establish his greatness, he has to act like that. So he is infinitely merciful. So these things indicate that the Supreme Lord has got patience as well. See, this is also one of the qualities the Supreme Lord possesses, patience. So the Lord has infinite patience also. He has been waiting for us to turn to him since a long time, since limitless time. And he's still waiting for us. So that also indicates his aspect of being patient. Because a loving father will never abandon his child. Right? So by providing alternate means, he is only indicating his greatness. And that is easily visible to us. So in whichever way one will connect with the Supreme Lord, like, it is rightly said that if one takes one step towards the Lord, then the Lord will take 10 steps, 100 steps towards that person. Like that. Right? So we need to understand that there's a subjective way of people looking at things, but then there is the absolute way of looking at nature and the supreme reality, because we are not the controllers. And we will be controlled ultimately. That we need to understand. Even though we may have a subjective perception about things, my opinion, your opinion, unlimited opinions will not matter. It will not bother, because I will be controlled. At the end of the day, I am going to be controlled and I will be punished. I will be suffering. So if your views has the controlling power, you are able to control the situation, then you can say that your views, your subjective opinion becomes the absolute opinion. But here in this case, the path which is best is already described by the Supreme Lord. He's already given us that. And what is the best path? It is not something which is biased. It is something which is all inclusive. As I said, that infinite includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 10,000, 11, 20,000, 1 crore, 1 billion, million, trillion, everything. Infinite contains everything. So which is that part which is all-inclusive? It contains the philosophy of all other parts also, and it is perfectly reconciling everything. There may be contrary things also, but it may reconcile properly. Like everything is reconciled in the absolute truth, because all contrary things are resolved in him. I hope it makes sense.
Okay, so then can we safely say that all the paths are perfect?
See, as I shared earlier, that the paths which are sanctioned by the Lord, they are bona fide and perfect in the sense that they are, you can say there is a gradation also. You can say there is perfect path, there is more perfect, there is most perfect. So good, better, best, like that. So that is something which we need to identify, and whether we are able to follow that best path, that is our own choice. See, now there is a question of free will also, because if you want to reconnect with a person, you have to have a choice. You have to have a free will, because free will, love is only expressed by free will, or our desire and our choice is only expressed by free will. If everyone is controlled, if everyone is forced to accept something, then there is no question of expressing our free will or making a choice. Then we become robots. So in order to express our desire to establish our free will, our identity, self-identity, there is a free will also accompanying us. So that free will basically is, you can say, it's our pure ego. It's our identity. That identity is made up of various choices, and that identity varies from one individual to another individual. It is different from everyone, because we are all different. We are all individuals. We are all different from each other. Just imagine if we were all same in characteristics, right? Then what is the meaning and what is the need of so many individuals? Just one individual will suffice, because each and every one of us has the same qualities and characteristics of that one individual. Then what is the meaning of existence of so many individuals? One individual suffices, because he is the representative of all the other individuals. So this is not possible. That's why if there has to be variety, there has to be different individuals, unlimited individuals with unlimited variety. They all have unique characteristics. If me, you, and everyone else is the same, then what is the meaning of my existence? Why do I exist? What is unique about me? What am I going to contribute to you or to some others? Because we are all the same, in the same boat. So it does not make sense to say that everyone has the same characteristics. No, everyone will have different characteristics. This is very important, because this will create variety. And through this variety, there is the expression of free will, free choice. Through that only you express your love. In order to love, for love to exist, you must have free will. And that is expressed by your identity. So you may reject certain things, you may accept certain things. That is your choice. That is something which is dependent on your identity and free will. And that's how you express your love towards Lord also. Right? See, whenever if you want to love someone, or you want to prove your love to someone, then there must be tests. There must be certain things which may not be favorable for you, but still you accept it just because you love the person. So there must be repeated tests for your love to be verified. So that you can only say that you can only claim that you love someone when you pass all the tests. So if there are challenges, sufferings in your life when you're trying to love someone, and if you accept those challenges and suffering as a blessing, that okay, in spite of all these challenges, I'm still going to love this person. But if you reject the person because of these challenges, obstacles, that means your love is not so strong enough. Your love is not selfless. So in order for selfless love to exist, we have to have certain negative choices also in front of us, so that it will be a testing period for us, whether we are selecting this or that, right? And that will make us truly love someone in a selfless spirit. So these are all connected with our consciousness, our identity. If we are not ready for something, then we don't accept it at that point of time. But the Lord sees the essence of one's devotion, the essence of one's consciousness. Even if we are thinking of pleasing the Lord for a moment, maybe we are not ready for following the path of Bhakti Yoga or the best path. But even if we are willing to follow for a moment or for some time, some other path, which may also be attractive to the Lord, which may be also, the Lord will be appreciated. Lord will be able to appreciate that. So the Lord sees the smallest thing that we do for him. And then he gives us a lot of opportunities to cultivate our love further and further. So as we purify our consciousness, we gradually advance, and then we can also come to the best path ultimately.
So can we say then that, I think what I understood is that because of people's various personalities, what they have over various lifetimes, the kind of personality traits they have developed, so they are at a certain point on their path. So for that position they are having, so Lord has made so many religions which is most suited to them, right? And then they can approach the absolute truth.
Yeah.
But always you said like there is a good, better, best. So there is always the most perfect path, right?
A hierarchy.
In the hierarchy. And that topmost path is actually covering the concepts of all these other paths as well. So these other paths are in a way subsets of that perfect path. They may contain certain aspects of the perfect path. Certain they may not be covering. They may not be touching upon that. Whereas the absolute perfect path will encompass all the possibilities.
Yes, the best path. Yeah. So there's a hierarchy. It's a ladder in one sense. And this ladder has been created for suiting the needs of people. But one thing we have to just make sure, as I said earlier, that we need to draw a line somewhere, because see, people also create their own religions, their preconceived religions. They have some notions in their mind, and they create religion out of that. That is not bona fide. Another point is that no religion will go against dharma. If a religion has to be bona fide, it will always be dharmic. It will not break the dharmic principles. It will not be sinful. It will not encourage sinful activities. So one thing we have to always understand, that there are certain parameters within which we can say that these are all bona fide religions. Most of the religions, they are defined in the scriptures. They are mentioned in the scriptures. So it is not so difficult to identify which are these religions. But then outside of that, then we need to really understand, is this man-made religion, or it's created by God, or it is defined in the scriptures. So man-made religion, we have to be very careful, and we don't have to we cannot follow that. And there may be certain man-made religions which may be dharmic also in nature, but it may not lead us to the Supreme Lord also, because it is very contrary in nature, right? So see, in the previous yugas, in the earlier yugas, God was present before people's material eyes, before their gross senses and eyes. Like, the demigods, the devatas, the Supreme Lord used to give darshan. He used to appear also. And then he was personally present also in this material world. So people could easily deal with God. They had a direct, they could see the Lord directly. And for them, dealing with God was like a regular affair, right? But now in Kali Yuga, so it's defined in the scriptures that God does not appear in Kali Yuga, and he cannot be seen with the gross senses and eyes. So this is one of the prerogatives of the Supreme Lord. If he wishes to do this, he can do it, and there is no one to check him for that. But one thing is very interesting to note, that in previous yugas, although the Lord used to give darshan and he was personally present also, but how many demons they transformed by seeing the Lord, by coming in contact with the Lord, by hearing his instructions. How many demons they accepted his instructions and they followed and they transformed and they became devotees. Very rarely any demon became a devotee, even in spite of being in presence of the Lord, right? So it is rightly mentioned that the demons in earlier yugas, although they were in touch with the Lord, but they were in touch with the Lord superficially. They were seeing the reflection of the Lord. They were not seeing the Lord directly. The Lord covered his personality by his potencies. So they were not able to see the actual form of the Lord. Only by devotional service one can actually see the Lord. And this is also, there is a typical example of this in the Bhagavad Gita also, where it is clearly understood that Arjuna first saw the universal form of the Lord, but then later on, after the universal form, the Lord appeared in the four-armed form, because Arjuna got afraid of the universal form. So he requested Krishna to appear in his four-handed form. Okay, but then even after that, he was not so satisfied. And then he again requested the Lord to appear in his original two-handed form. So the great sages describe that this two-handed form is even rare than the four-handed form of the Lord. And even demigods, they are not able to see this two-handed form. They could only see by devotional service or by some special mercy of some devotees. So this two-handed form of the Lord is extremely rare and very difficult for one to attain. The demigods also could not see this form, although the demigods could see the universal form of the Lord when he displayed that universal form. We could also see there were many demigods the Lord actually manifested, right? So basically the demigods, they could see and understand the universal form, but they could not understand and they could not perceive the two-handed form of the Supreme Lord. That's a very confidential form of the Lord. And that's why the Bhagavad Gita also has confidential knowledge, more confidential and most confidential knowledge, right? So I would be very much interested to share about the Bhagavad Gita, how Bhagavad Gita conveys that devotional service to the Lord is the goal of the Bhagavad Gita, the essence of Bhagavad Gita, not just Gita, but the entire Vedas as such. We'll establish that, not in today's session, but later on. I have some plan to conduct a session on that. How Bhagavad Gita, how all these other different paths, they are all led us to the same goal, to the ultimate goal. And they are all subsets, as we are rightly saying, they are all subsets. We'll prove that later on. But coming back to the point, the presence of the Lord is not sufficient for someone to accept that the Supreme Lord is there and I believe the Supreme Lord, and whatever he tells me, I will accept that. So the idea that there should be one common path for everyone, even if the Lord will personally come and he will establish one common path, they will not accept. People with demoniac mentalities will not accept. And Kali Yuga, everyone is more or less a demon. It is rightly said that in Satyuga, there were no demons, right? In Treta Yuga, the demons, they were outside the families. In Dwapar Yuga, the demons assembled in the within the family, right? And in Kali Yuga, the demons, they reside in the heart of everyone. So as long as you have this demoniac mentality to enjoy the material world separately, to gratify our senses, to this is not love, this is lust. As long as we have this lust in this material world, we will not be able to accept anything that the Lord will say. Even for a devotee to progress in devotion is a big challenge. It is not so easy, because we don't want to give up our mentality of enjoying the material world. We don't want to surrender to the Supreme Lord. So for devotees also is a struggle, what to speak of outside people, right? I mean, Lord understands everything, all these mentalities, because he's the greatest psychologist also. So he knows everything. So the point is, no matter whether the Lord is present or not, this common approach, one path solution is not going to work in Kali Yuga. Even in the presence of Lord, you will require multiple paths to connect to him. Even at the present, when Krishna was personally present, he was also not left, without blaming. He was also blamed for stealing the Shamantak jewel. So in the time when, and what to speak of people of Kali Yuga, in Dwapar Yuga, when Krishna was personally present, people from his own assembly in Dwarka, they were criticizing the Lord. Not just the outside people, outside of his community, outside of his kingdom, but within his own kingdom, with his own associates, they were actually criticizing the Lord. So it's very interesting. The entire pastime has multiple lessons. We have already discussed in detail about the disappearance of the Yadu dynasty and the disappearance of Krishna. All these events, they are very much instructive in nature. But anyways, the conclusion is that whether the Lord is present or not, people are going to have, they would require a different alternative, because they are at different consciousness, they are at different levels. And that's why the religions are meant to created, because in order so that they can be catered to the individual person in their best possible way. So people now see, people with different consciousness, they are going to see the world in different ways. It is like putting like a wearing a colored glass. So if you are wearing green color glass, then you will see everything green in front of you. Whatever you see, it will all be green. And other person who is wearing a red glass, you will see everything red. So there is a subjective opinion, subjective perception. And it is not possible to come to an absolute conclusion, because as long as people do not remove their glasses, they will not be able to see the actual truth. And last time also we had given the example of the 6 blind people who are touching the different parts of the elephant. And they are right in their own ways. They are not wrong, but they are not able to unanimously come to a conclusion that ultimately the object is an elephant. Right?
So they're all describing parts of the bigger, they're all subsets of the bigger truth.
Correct, yeah. So it is like this. That's why people, in order to, so the Lord is so merciful, in spite of, see, now the Lord can also, like a strict father, the Lord can reject them, or tentatively or temporarily, the Lord can reject them, or he can also punish them, saying that, okay, it's you who have rejected me for such a long time, for multiple lifetimes. You have been ignorant. I have given the message. I have been giving the message for centuries, for lifetimes, but still you have avoided my message. Like, for example, a father will tell a child, don't do this, otherwise you will get some negative consequences. But we have been rejecting, we have been avoiding the message of the Lord repeatedly. So then who is responsible for our own conditioning and state? It is us who are responsible, not the Lord, right? But in spite of knowing that we have rejected him, we are responsible for our choices, karmas, for our conditionings, for our nature. And that's why we are not on a platform to take up the direct path. Still, he wants us to connect us at some level. So that is the greatness of the Lord. So this is how, there are multiple religions that we have.
Is atheism also recognized as a part of that bigger absolute path?
Yeah, that's also a good question. See, as I quoted the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna clearly says that Mana Vartamanu Vartante Manusha Partha Sarvasa. In all respects, in all forms, people, they follow my path. Now, why does he say like that, my path? Is atheism also one of the paths to the Supreme Lord? Absolutely no. Because atheism is completely contrary. Atheism is rejection of the Supreme Lord. So how can it be one of the paths? But what we need to understand is the context in which the Lord is saying that ultimately one follows my path in all respect means whatever is there in the material world, ultimately it is all coming from the Supreme Lord. So atheism also, which is not recommended by the Supreme Lord, but it is an option which is given to someone who wants to deny and reject God. So see, there has to be all possibilities. If the Lord says that atheist cannot exist, I will not allow any atheist to exist, it means he is actually interfering in his free will. It means that he is trying to impose his view, forcing him. That is also not possible. For love, the Lord does not do that. So in order to protect the free will, in order to establish the free will of a person, he does not interfere in the free will. And free will also means that you totally reject the Lord. So he sanctions that also. But that is not a path to approach him. Not at all a path. It is contrary to his desire. It is contrary to the father's desire to do something. But a child, if he is stubborn, then he will do that. What can the father do? Later on, the child, by his own experience in the material world, will come to his senses. So atheism is one of the path which is contrary to the path of connecting with the Supreme Lord. But because everything is inclusive in the arrangement of Supreme Lord, so we say that, that's why Krishna says that Mamanu Vartamanu Vartante Manusha Partha Sarvasa. Everyone follows my path, ultimately. Now, how? Very easily you can understand this phenomena. Ultimately, everyone except my path means ultimately everyone has to accept death. They have to submit their ego at the time of death. They have to take birth, they have to die, they have to suffer and birth that old age, and they have to grow old. So even an atheistic person, he has to undergo these 4 transformations. That's how they are following his path. There is nothing beyond his path. Because ultimately we know that we are all controlled. If tomorrow someone will create scientifically a device where he can become immortal, then we can say that, okay, he's defying God's path and something which is beyond his purview, beyond his arrangement. But because everyone has to take birth, die, grow old, and has to suffer for disease, that's why everyone is following his path. Because he is the one who has set some rules and regulations in this material world. And because if we follow it, then good. If we do not follow, we have to suffer. So that means we are controlled. So in that sense, he's saying that everyone follows my path. Okay. So I think now we can, if there are no questions, then we can come to the second part of the talk show, which is does not all these paths lead to the same goal towards God, right? That's the question. Yeah, so I think to some degree we have already answered this question, that these are all progressive paths. There is one best and direct path, and then there are other subsets or paths which will take us to that path, but provided it is bona fide in nature. And now see, there are different goals in because the absolute truth is available in three features. Vedanti tat tattva vidam tattva yadva vyanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti sabjate. So in the Bhagavatam it is mentioned Vedanti tat tattva vidam tattvam yad vyanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti sabjate. Three paths are there: brahmeti, paramatmeti, and bhagwan. These are three paths which are sentient, bona fide, defined in the scriptures according to Supreme Lord. So depending on the way a person would like to connect to the Supreme in these three forms and aspects of the Supreme Lord, they will have different paths, but they are all within the purview of the same absolute truth, how to connect with him. So actually speaking, truly speaking, we can connect with the absolute truth only in the personal form, because there is no question of connecting with something which is impersonal. So there has to be some person, there has to be some connection with a person. So Paramatmeti and Bhagwan. So these are the, so Paramatma is basically the partial manifestation of the absolute truth, and Brahmeti is the Brahman, is the impersonal manifestation of absolute truth, and then Bhagwan is the highest form of manifestation of the absolute truth, which means that it is all inclusive. And truly speaking, we have to reconnect with Bhagwan. But the Lord is so kind that if someone would like to connect with the other forms of the absolute truth, then he has also sanctioned the process, provided the person does not offend the Lord. So if a person offends the Lord, offends Bhagwan, and if he strives to attain for Paramatma, and I don't think Paramatma will be the goal for that person, because if he offends the Lord, then Paramatma feature is also personal feature to some degree. So the only option is Brahman feature of the Lord. I don't think anyone will be able to attain the Brahman feature if they offend the Supreme Lord. But if they appreciate the supreme feature of the Lord in his personal presence, in personal form, and they would like to go for different options, yeah, then these paths are sanctioned by the Lord. They can attain the goal. But again, the goal is going to be inferior. You will not get what you will also get in the higher realization of the Supreme Lord. So it is very clearly distinguished in the Bhagavad Gita, because Arjuna is asking this question to the Lord, that amongst the personal and the impersonal, which one is the highest? And the Supreme Lord makes very clear in the Bhagavad Gita, it is very clearly established that the highest form of realization is the Bhagwan form of the Lord, because it displays maximum qualities, energies, the maximum qualities are manifested by the Bhagwan form of the Lord. Maximum energies of the Lord are manifested. Maximum attributes are manifested of the Lord in the Bhagwan feature, compared to the Paramatma as well as the Brahman feature. So that is very clearly established in the Bhagavad Gita. So there are different paths, different goals also, which are mentioned in the scriptures, and one can attain these goals. But the results that the goals will provide will be inferior, will be very less compared to the ultimate goal. Now, there are certain paths that may contradict also. So we cannot say that all paths can lead to the same goal. All paths can lead to the same goal if all paths are being connected as a progressive sequence to the ultimate path. So means that, if you want to travel from Andheri to Churchgate, then if you are traveling from Andheri to Bandra, from Bandra to Dadar, that's a progressive sequence. Then you may be able to attain. But on the way, if you take a diversion and you go in opposite direction, then you cannot expect that you will reach the same goal. So there are certain paths which will say that, speaking of reconnecting with God, some paths they will claim that we are ourselves God, or we are ourselves Brahman. So such kind of paths are completely opposed to the true path. So they will not be able to give any goal. You will not be able to achieve that kind of thing. So you may want a particular goal, that's your choice. But whether you will be able to attain that goal or not, for that there is a process. There is a path which is established by the Lord. If you follow the path, you will attain that goal. If that path is not bona fide, it is not sanctioned by the Lord, you will never attain the goal. Even though you may have a progressive sequence also, but if that path itself is not sanctioned, it is created by some person, then you will not be able to attain that. So it's not necessary that all paths will lead to the same goal. All paths should be in that progressive sequence to the same goal, towards the same goal. It should be directed towards the same goal. Then only it is possible to attain that. Otherwise, there are many branched, multiple paths, some even opposite. So we cannot say, that they are all going to lead to the same goal. And some paths will lead to some progressive goals, but it will give you a temporary result, or it can also give you minimum result or less result compared to the highest path. So it can bring you to a certain, like for example, you can go from Andheri to Bandra. It will drop you to Bandra, but it will not drop you beyond Bandra. So you will have to go again, you will have to make efforts to go to Dadar. And from Dadar also you have to go make efforts to go to Churchgate, like that. So we have to be intelligent to discriminate and decide which path is going to be the ultimate path, all-inclusive path. Only then we can make sure that, okay, the path that we are following is the best path.
So it's a case of continuous learning and progressing and learning and progressing.
Not necessary. If you are directly connected to the best path, the direct path, then that's it. Like, you have...
then also purification has to be, it's where you are still learning, right?
Yeah. In that sense, every path we have to learn something. Learning never ends at in any particular path, unless until you reach the goal. But in terms of time, definitely in terms of efforts. So it is also described by Krishna that the path of impersonal liberation is very troublesome, and it is also very difficult. So it will take a long time, and it is also very troublesome. It is not so easy. So there are other paths, but they may be troublesome. They may be consuming more time. But then if we can identify the best path, and if we get connected to that, then all these things could be avoided.
So impersonalism is one of the paths where then person after a certain point will graduate to a path of personalism, right?
That is dependent on the
eventually he has to graduate from that impersonalism to personalism.
See, the desire of the Lord is that everyone connects to his personal form. But whether the individual jiva desires or not, the individual person desires or not, that is up to him. So someone may be able to attain impersonal liberation, but whether that person will eventually go to personal realization, that is difficult to say. Because some say that the eternal constitutional position of the soul is to extend relationship with the Lord, to be, of being a servant of the Lord. And some say that that servant can also mean that you are just eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and you are just dependent on the Supreme Lord. You just realize that you are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and you are dependent on the Supreme Lord. So that realization itself means you are that's how they define servant. But some say that servant means basically you are serving the Lord to some degree. So when you talk about service, then there has to be a personal realization. But when you talk about being dependent, then even someone who has realized that I am Brahman knows that I am dependent. Like there is some dependency kind of. In fact, it's quite complex to say this, because at the stage of Brahman realization, you become one with everything. So you do not even realize that you are separate and you are dependent on someone, because you have this conviction that you are one. You are just one. There is no duality. So you cannot say that I'm dependent on someone. So that's a bit technical and complicated, discussion. But in general, the Lord wants everyone to have a personal relationship. Otherwise, what is the meaning of the existence of a person? So what basically we are saying is that if a person attains impersonal liberation eternally, then that's his position. Then he cannot. That means he has become one with Brahman eternally. There is no question of attaining a relationship with the Lord, which means then you can question that what is the meaning of existing for that person, for that soul, because he has become, he's like become one with the Brahman. So why was that soul created? That does not make sense. The soul, in the Vedanta Sutra also it is said that the Lord desired to become many so that he could enjoy rasa with the living entities. Let me become many. In the Vedanta Sutra it is mentioned, the Lord desire, or the Absolute Truth desire, let me become many. And then the Absolute Truth also desired to have rasa. Is full of rasa. The Lord is full of rasa. The Absolute Truth is full of rasa. So, what is the purpose of creating, or creation is also a wrong word, because Mamai Vamsho Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The part and parcel, the soul is eternally present. There is no point of time when we say that the soul was created or the soul came into existence. The soul is also eternal. Part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Sun and the sun rays, they both are eternal. We cannot say which one came first. So both are existing eternally, the Lord and the soul, the Jiva. So, but the what is the purpose of that existence? That is difficult to say. When we say that impersonal liberation is eternal. So it is. I personally feel, even after attaining impersonal liberation, one may still be attracted to the pastimes of the Lord and may eventually have a personal realization with the Lord. I personally feel like that. Anyways, that's I think, very technical subject. Yeah. So any other question or comments? That's good. So see, that's why the Gita also says does not say very straightforwardly that the Gita says that those who worship the demigods, they go to the planet of demigods. Those who worship the ancestors, they will go to the planet of ancestors. Those who worship the bhutas, pritas, they go to their planet. And those who worship me, they come to me. So this is very clearly, the Lord is very clearly distinguished between different destinations and different paths. That's why, as you surrender to me, I will reward you accordingly. So the path you select, the efforts you put, depending on that corresponding. See, one other interesting point is that it has to be like that. If you desire to go to the heavenly abode, the Lord is not going to send you to Vaikuntha, right? Because this is your desire. If the Lord is going to send you to Vaikuntha, you will cry there also. Why did you send me here? I wanted to go to a heavenly planet. So, depending on the desire of the soul, only the Lord will give them the destination. Because this is what you wanted. So, how can the Lord give you something else? If He gives you something else, you will frustrated. You will be frustrated there. So, there is no question of forcing, converting, or changing one's free will. Free will always remains free will, everywhere, wherever you go. So if you do not want Vaikuntha, the Lord cannot give you Vaikuntha. It's a simple thing. He has to give you the destination that you desire. Of course, you have to prove yourself. You have to be qualified for attaining that destination. But the Lord cannot give you anything else. So that's why multiple paths, multiple destinations. That's also a simple thing to understand. Okay, so any more questions or comments, Rajiv ji and Nidhi ji?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, all right. So with this, we can end our today's talk show, and hopefully next one we will come up with another topic. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.